In all the ways that we talk about building a business, building a startup business and other insights, a big blank spot is all of the events that Go is a part of and really understanding like why that is important from a brand building strategy.
When you're building a brand from nothing, the best thing I think you could do is get liquid to lips in the beverage world. Or you can get trial, just kind of like what would be equivalent online of how you get like a freemium for a month. You get to try something, right? It's much more accessible online. When you're trying to physical good or when you're selling a physical good, it's important to get people to try it. And to do that, you have to do it in real life. So the question is really like, how do you do that? And what rationale do you use to figure out what you do and when you do it? Because there's literally an infinite amount of things you could be doing. And you could spend, especially in the beverage space, $1 billion a month, and you still have more money. Like, it sounds crazy. Probably not. I mean, a lot of people know how much like a Miller Lite would spend on a commercial, and our total revenue plus our marketing budget is like a rounding error to them, like their office supplies, you know? So it's like what we need to do as a young brand is be really smart and intentional about where we show up, because doesn't mean we don't need to do that. We're lucky enough to be able to sell online, to get liquid to lips in a lot of other ways, but that still doesn't like give you the same experience as seeing a brand and how they activate in person.
What I think I hear you saying is it's not really about budget, even though budget is a constraint for many startup businesses. Going about participating in outside event experiences is budget isn't necessarily your first checkpoint of whether or not this is worthwhile.
I think in some ways it is, and because I can't do certain things, like I just can't do them. Like, you know, if I came to me tomorrow and said, you want to be the sponsor of the Chicago Bears next year, you know, I probably couldn't do that. So budget's definitely a consideration. What was happening early on, to be honest, I think we talked about this maybe before, is that we were getting hit up by all of these different venues and places and people. And I mean, we still get hit up today, but we built a calculator that allows us to put data in there to determine is what they're trying to sell us even have the right price to value equation in it. Here's what we find. And I've been on the other side of this, so it's not anyone's fault, especially for someone starting like a newer conference who doesn't have a ton of experience. Like, they'll just throw dollar amounts at there, be like, yeah, it's $10,000 to be a sponsor. Well, how many people will be there? 1,000. You know, you're like, how does that even make any sense? So then you then need to take another slice at that and say, okay, well, if it's 1,000 of the exact customer, does that make a difference? And the answer is yes, but like, does it make a difference to the tune of $10,000 as that example? Probably not. So it's like, so we figured out like a CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, of good events that we went to and that we thought there was good value at, and what that number was. And then when we would get a proposal, we would put in our calculator and quickly realize this is either good value or not good value. Or in some cases, there was a podcast that actually was like undervalued. We were actually doing better than what they were charging us. So, I mean, that's obviously great too. So,
well, bridge that gap. A lot of people would understand brand exposure and relative value based on that CPM, amount of people at the event, CPM online, like there's a rubric for it, versus what you were talking about in terms of getting products onto people's lips, into bellies, whatever your product is, right? Like, and then extracting from that a kind of ROI maybe, or like, how are you really, you know, going, we went from brand exposure, good, to brand experience, they tasted it in some ways, to then knowing like, did that help the business in some way? Like, what's that connection there?
Yeah, so for the most part, we might do like small sampling somewhere, but anything we're paying money to be at, we are collecting data from the customer. Let's say you're doing a sporting event, right? You're not thinking at all about the vendor that you're going to run into and the partner there. You're thinking about the thing you have to do. So like, let's take a marathon, for example. You fly past these booths really quickly, right? So you have to think about, as a sponsor, as a partner, how do I want to show up for you as a runner? And the last thing in that case I'd want to do is actually ask for your data in that case. But there's other touch points maybe before the marathon. A good example would be at the Chicago Marathon, we were unable to get in the marathon as a partner, but we could do the expo. And we had this fun game where you took this washer and you tried to hit it on this hook. And nothing to do with beer, but it was just like something, a game of chance. And we had a line of like 50 people. Well, in order for them to play, we collected their email address and their information. And that was valuable to us because now the touch point wasn't just that moment, but now there's a follow-up. And now I have their data and I could email them, I could communicate with them and establish a relationship.
Right. Take it a step farther for me in terms of then, okay, I got that email. Take your advice that it shouldn't just be a confrontational, hey, give me your email, thanks for trying our beer, but like engage them in some way. How do I know that email, to your point of, was this the 1,000 right people? Like validating that.
Totally. And in the case of the Chicago Expo, it really wasn't. Like in the scheme of everyone that was there, because you got to think about that audience too, right? You have people at the Expo, but they're like family members of the runner, and the runner is like maybe focused. And then you have like grandma and grandpa that are coming by and they're like, oh, that looks like a fun game. So you're going to get kind of that crowd. So one thing that I look at, we use a system called Klaviyo, but I think all email systems do the same thing. And you get a revenue per subscriber number.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you know exactly how much revenue you're generating per subscriber in your database.
Because it's tied to your sales system in some way? Or
yeah, let's do like a thought experiment of like, say we have 10 people in our email database, right? Yep. I send an email out and 2 of those people purchase something that equates to like $100.
Yep.
Right? So you can easily do the math and figure out, okay, here's how much money each one of those subscribers, if you divide it by 10, not necessarily the 2, each one of those is worth.
Yeah.
Right? So then you can extrapolate that out. So if I'm doing an event like the Chicago Marathon, and let's say my average revenue per subscriber is like $1, and I send an email out and the average revenue to that list is 50 cents, I know it's not performing to the mean that I have, right? That's maybe a little more complicated for folks. It's not really complicated if you think about it, but like, it's going a little bit deeper than most people do. So then now I know, okay, from this event, like this isn't necessarily like our audience. This doesn't mean I won't do it again.
Yeah.
You still want to build relationships, but you just have to be cognizant of that. Am I going to spend more money next year doing it? Probably not. When you think about activations, you have to think about deeper touch points as well, not just, oh, you can email the person. That's great. But like, then what? So an example would be, we were in New York for 10 days. We were at HYROX.
Yeah.
HYROX is the fastest growing fitness race in the U.S. We're proud to be a partner and a sponsor of it. We were in New York because literally that's how long the event was. It was 50,000 athletes competing over the course of those 10 days. And there was a ton of opportunities for spectators and athletes to come by.
It's like 200,000 spectators.
200,000 spectators, 50,000 athletes, yes.
It's a very big event.
Very big event. So you had all these opportunities for these touch points for people to walk by your booth, see your brand for the first time, and maybe not the first time. This is another important thing of the frequency that you get for being at an event like that versus like a one-time thing. So we're there, and I thought about, okay, well, how do we establish a deeper relationship, and what is our goal? So our goal at these events are to be able to follow up with these customers, to be able to nurture these relationships, to make them an extension and a megaphone for our brand too, especially if they like us. So we have this activation. Beer push-ups is this fun little exercise. You have to do a plank and then drink a beer, and then you have to switch arms doing it, and it's how many you could do in a minute. And we have a scoreboard there, we have a timer, and we have this really cool kind of kiosks now that we built where someone comes up, they have to give us their email, they have to take a picture, and as soon as they're done, it flashes on the board and it shows their ranking. So it's just like really cool, fun experience. There's a quid pro quo there. It's like this for that. You can't just like sit there in the corner and be like, can I have your email? No, it's like, what are they going to get out of it?
Yeah.
In this case, we literally are like, you want to sign up for this event? We need your information because we need to fill out a disclaimer. We then took that opportunity to insert some questions. And one of those questions is, would you want to be part of our creator program? This is something we're just launching right now. The creator program is one in which that someone can create user-generated content for our brand. So now they're walking by our activation, they think this thing's cool, they have to sign up, they get to this question, and they could choose yes or no. So out of, let's say for easy math, like 500 people did it, 150 people, pretty good percentage, said, yes, we want to be part of the creator program. And mind you, a lot of these people, it was their first touch point with Go Brewing, so they didn't really know us. So it wasn't like they were friends with us and they were coming by and doing this. So I think that's a pretty good take rate. And today, we're following up with all of them.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, you said you were interested. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. If you are, answer these 2 questions. Why would you want to be a creator for Go Brewing?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll put another question in there of data that we can use, like, have you heard of us before, HYROX, you know? And then you start to understand the value outside of just that event. Like, can we create some longevity beyond it? And that is the game to me that I see everyone missing at events. And you know why? They're not even collecting it. If you're going up to do an activation, no one's asking you for anything. You're just doing it. And that's cool, that's fun, but like, you leave there, then you don't have that touch point.
No,
and
not at
you're
all.
forgettable.
You can't validate it at all to whomever you might need to validate it to, right? If you are running your own business, if you're the entrepreneur that's engaged in it, you might not need to validate it to anybody else. But if you're in a bigger company and a CFO is like, what did we get out of this event? Like, everybody's used to like, what's the ROI on this? And oh, well, we don't have a way to measure it. Everybody had a great time though, so it was really worthwhile versus like, okay, how are you taking that experience that we gave people, and hopefully it was a good experience, and turning it into some type of relationship and engagement that can be measured going forward to know, should we do this again? Should we double down? Should we pivot to something else? Like, there's such a miss there.
I've been doing these events for 3 years in this space, and I can't tell you a time when I saw someone collect data. And I never understood why, because you're getting a fraction out of that sponsorship than you could be. And these people, in many cases, they want to follow up with you. These people aren't going to remember a brand new brand unless you get in front of them again.
I would take it even a step further to say they're probably not even likely to remember the offer that you gave them, right? Give us your email and we'll give you a 10% off on your next purchase, or a buy one, get one. It's like, okay, maybe that's worth it to me, but give me your email and you can participate in this really fun thing that we're doing over here. And I do that, and now I'm having an experience. I'm like, that was so cool, doing those push-ups, and I got a photo from it and my friends loved it and we talk about it now. I'm going to remember this brand, or at least how I felt more about it. And that is what is kind of taking, turning it into an experience that I think is more worthwhile.
An analogy might be also people that have an online business. Like, we have a big online business. Like, we sell a lot of beer online, like thousands and thousands of orders per month. If I had no way to email those customers after they purchase from us and say thank you and put an email flow in front of them and remind them 30 days from now that, they can get another order, it means every time we would want to sell more product, I'd have to acquire them as if they were new customers. Which is a horrible business model. A top thing people will look at, investors, stakeholders, someone looking to acquire your company, is your retention rate. Well, you're going to drive retention by following up with customers in a way that it's earned, that it's not paid for, meaning you've earned their email, you earned the fact that you can follow up with them. You're not having to go acquire them from Meta as if they were a stranger. And that is a huge, huge thing. Like, we are fortunate at Go to have good acquisition costs, but even more fortunate to have a good returning customer rate, significantly higher than the average, which means that when I acquire a customer, there's a high probability they're going to come back and buy again, so I don't have to reacquire them. Well, the reason why they're coming back is we're reminding them constantly too to come back. And then they hopefully get in a habit and they join our beer club, and that's how we're able to grow it all. If we didn't have that, then we wouldn't even be here today. You apply a similar framework to events and it starts to make sense in a different way, and that's the way I always thought about it.
Will you share how that's evolved for Go? Because I think, back to your point in terms of a lot of people aren't collecting the email. Maybe they're not even thinking about it. Go at these events, whether it's HYROX or elsewhere, the mechanics of collecting the email versus what we just did, where we basically built an app that makes the flow, that takes the photo, that just makes it so stupid-proof in a way that now we can really unlock the value of having that data in ways that can be scaled across any other event that we would do or whatever.
Like we've said many times, it's a great time to be alive, to be able to do this stuff. Before, we were using Typeform. We were literally, we had a URL. You could go to bit.ly, get a tiny URL. You could get a QR code, and you could do a Typeform. And that Typeform could have information. You could sync that Typeform to your email marketing client, whatever that is. And if someone fills out that Typeform, you could trigger an email flow to that person. So that's base case that you could do. There's ways to capture information, right? And now, to your point, like, you can code an app that would otherwise have been seemingly impossible.
Yeah.
So like we had this idea, so we built our own activation app within our system, so everything's connected. So someone comes up, they fill out the form, they take a picture, all that's custom built. The experience of like them finishing, their name goes on the screen with their picture.
Slow that down, because this is like, put someone who's listening into that moment at the booth, because it is really pretty fucking phenomenal. Like, why am I getting my picture taken? Oh, you'll see in a second.
Yeah. Okay, so picture this booth. It's a bar, more of a bar than a booth. To the right of it is the activation side of what we're doing, which means like this where the beer push-up challenge is. Right. And all it is like a red mat. So this is the other thing. Like before we were lugging around a treadmill and like doing all this stuff, and now we're like, we don't even need to do that. Like we came up with this fun beer push-up game that people are really digging, and it's all we need is a red carpet. Mm-hmm. So we have this red carpet. Folks are seeing people do it, or maybe they're interested because there's some signage around it. They come up and they're like, what is that beer push-ups? Yeah. So then you're like, oh, do you want me to show you what it is? Or maybe they're seeing someone do it, and like, let's just say for sake of time, like they're down to sign up for it.
Yep.
So they go to the iPad that's right there that has a custom form that we built from scratch using Claude Code and AI to build this web app for us. It asks them a series of questions, including, do you want to be part of the creator program? Then at the very end, it's like, hey, do you mind if we take your picture? And then as soon as they did that, it was stored into our system. So it didn't show up on the kiosk or anything at this point. When they finished the beer push-up challenge and we recorded their time, so like people would get an average of like 12 push-ups, let's say. Like low would be like 8, high, I think someone did 40. And as soon as we typed that in there, we hit enter, then the picture that we took of them would flash on the screen. And I don't know if you saw this, but I added even more to it, where it would then basically shuffle the rankings. So let's say they were number 3, right? Mm-hmm. They would start at like 47, and then it would be like tick, 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 and it would show them scroll up.
Yeah.
And then it would pop up their face. Yeah. And then it would give a funny, like I had Claude just go grab like a funny sayings about runners, about you're faster than like cheetahs, things like that. But I would have it tie in HYROX too, like, oh, you just beat Hunter McIntyre's world record, things like that. And it would show up for like 30 seconds, and then it would fade out, and then the next person would go. So now you have this really fun, engaging, interactive experience. We have all these pictures of people. Yep. Would not do anything with those, but like it just created this like cool atmosphere. So then you walk by and you see all these faces of real people doing this, and then before that, we were literally using Google Sheets.
Right.
And so went from Typeform, using Typeform, to Zapier, which is like conduit between like applications. And then Zapier to Google Sheets would create a row of whoever entered the thing. But the other issue we had with it is it would break all the time. No matter what I did, someone would go there and put in a wrong formula and the whole thing would break. So this just literally all the person had to do was type in a number. Like that's all they had to do, hit enter. So frictionless for everyone around. Yeah. And then, because now we control that experience, I had a Twilio service, which is an SMS, and immediately they get a text with photos from later on that day too. So it was just like this cool full circle experience. And we could have like took it even further. Like sent them like 10 text messages, but like now we're following up with them. It's been it's been a week or so, and now it's a good time to re-engage, congratulate them for being in HYROX.
The things that I want to highlight from that is that the experience that you built for the would-be customers there looks way, way more expensive than it actually is. Go must be this huge brand that they built out a customized leaderboard that's real time and all that. And it just came from understanding, like, let's think about what we want to do. Use some AI. We talk about that a ton, obviously, to do it. But it's based on going into this opportunity going, what do we want to achieve? In this most specific instance, how are we turning people here into customers and those customers into advocates? Right? And thinking all the way through that intentionally, but then being open to what are the insights that we're going to learn through this whole thing, because that's going to be really valuable to us as well. And anybody could do that if they're just spending the time going, how are we maximizing the opportunity here, and not just going, well, there were 200,000 people at the event, so that's probably good, right? Full stop.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen, when I was at Dealer Inspire and we were acquired by Cars, how much money they would spend on these parties. And you're just like, whoa, it's a lot. Now, I think they did a good job of collecting emails and trying to nurture those people. And they would really look at it from an ROI perspective, like all those events in a different way. But at these beverage type events, we're thinking about the same thing. Like, how do we engage those folks?
Yeah.
And you never know who you're going to find. You could find your next like rock star employee. You could find the best ambassador ever. And it's just showing up in them and getting their information to create your own luck.
Yeah, so true. I'm a big fan of how event experiences are having a resurgence in a way, but not as an either or to doing really good digital marketing. What you're talking about is how are you blending that together to go, we know these digital marketing tools that really work, and we're putting them to use in an event context so that we're getting more value out of that event. Anybody can do that.
Yeah, and it's easier than ever, to your point. You just go into whatever coding software you have, go to the code section and say, I want to build an event application, and this is what I wanted to do. You don't need to research anything. You just need to talk to it. And this is not the chat apps within those systems. It's like the code section of them all. So in this case, it'd be Claude Code. You could just go ask it for that. You don't even need to get more technical than that. And you just go through the process.
Yeah.
Yet it seems so foreign to many people because the word code. But I would highly recommend you give it a try because the barrier to entry is nothing.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Welcome back.